The first topic is repeal of farm laws. Repeal of farm laws. It comes under economy. And the new batch students, have you started economy? At least have you completed the agricultural part? To what extent you have completed? Food processing, okay, fine. What about others? Is it up to food processing or you haven't started agriculture at all?
No, sir, we haven't started economy yet.
Okay. Some students haven't started. How many of you? Just raise your hand. Vipin? One. Okay. But anyhow, I'll try to simplify it and try to make you to understand the things. So do you know this fact? Repeal of farm laws are going to be repealed. Recently, I think on the 19th of November, Prime Minister of the country has announced that they are going to repeal all these laws in the upcoming session, and accordingly, Cabinet has given its approval. I think, do you understand the statement, whatever I have just said now? Why you need a Cabinet approval to repeal the law? It's already passed. If it is already passed, who passed it? Then why you need an approval of the Cabinet? If the Parliament repeals it, that's fine. But why you need an approval of the Cabinet? Anyone from online?
It can be repealed only through another bill.
It can be repealed only through another bill. Okay. Then why you need a Cabinet approval?
A bill is presented only after the approval of Cabinet, right?
The bill can only be presented through the approval of the Cabinet. If it is a government bill, it needs the approval of the Cabinet. Any bill, there are two types of bills. First one is government bill. Government bill in the sense a bill presented by any Cabinet minister or any minister in the Council of Ministers. If at all government is presenting any bill that needs the approval of the Cabinet, a single minister cannot give his assent to that bill. A single minister's approval is not sufficient because it's a collective thing. I think some of the students have started polity also. It's always collective responsibility lies. So collectively, Cabinet has to give approval to any bill which the government want to present in the Parliament. And government has already presented 3 laws and it got passed. Now we want to repeal it. If you want to repeal it, you can repeal it only through another bill. It's already an existing law. It has to be removed only by the government. So that is the reason why you need an approval to that bill. So that is how Cabinet has given approval. Now the next course is they will present in both the houses of Parliament and it will be repealed. Okay. But anyhow, tell me what are these 3 laws? Do you have any idea? How many laws are there total? 3. Just I list out the last names. The farmers produce. The farmers produce. The farmers produce. Trade and commerce. Trade and commerce. Promotion and facilitation. Promotion and facilitation. It's an act because it's already approved. Second one is the farmers. The farmers. Empowerment and protection. Empowerment and protection. Agreement of price assurance and farm services. Agreement of price assurance and farm services. Last one, the essential commodities. The essential commodities. Commodities. This is an amendment act. That means this act was already there. We have amended. We have amended it. But these two are new legislations. These two are new legislations. See, before I start discussion on these three laws, because these three laws are repealed, for the new students, I'll explain it clearly to some extent, but some of the students have already completed and they know some facts about these things. May not be clearly, but you know something. See, I'll ask a simple question. Now you know the statistics, the conditions, and the problems of Indian agricultural system. See, tell me, with all your knowledge and understanding, what solution that you can offer to the present day's agricultural system in order to remove this whatever the problems that the system is facing? Just tell me. Just give me one by one point so that I'll take necessary things. See, you have understood the agricultural system now. You know the area and what are the different crops, how much procurement, how it will be marketed, everything. There is a serious problem in the present day agricultural system. After understanding all these things, what are the solutions that you can offer to the Indian agricultural system so that we can remove all these problems?
Sir, proper agriculture marketing policies.
So proper agricultural marketing policies. So in your point of view, what are the proper agricultural marketing things? Do you think that the existing system is not working properly?
Yes, sir, little bit. I'm not properly read about it, but as I'm thinking like that.
Okay, you are thinking like the agricultural present marketing system is not proper, so you want an improvement on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so marketing, first one, she thinks that the existing system is not perfect, we need to change it. So tell me, what are the other things that we can do for the Indian agricultural system? Food processing. So the processing of the food in India is at the low level. So if we really process that food, definitely it will bring some sort of change in the agricultural system. Next.
The proper irrigation facilities.
What are the things that you find proper irrigation facilities? Micro irrigation.
Sir, proper storage facilities.
Proper storage facilities for what?
Sir, we have not a good storage facility in our country.
Okay, so you wanted it to improve storage facility. Okay. Next. Storage facility. Next.
So the use of the technologies.
Technology.
New technology should be used in agriculture.
So new technologies must be used in the agriculture system. Okay, technology. Assured MSP. Assured MSP. Okay. I'll discuss on this.
For providing high yielding variety seeds.
So providing high yield variety seeds and diversification. Someone said diversification. Agricultural insurance. Yes. Insurance. Next.
Sir, providing financial assistance.
Okay. Financial assistance of what? In terms of loans or in terms of
Subsidies must be given for farmers.
subsidies must be given. What type of subsidies?
For fertilizers and pesticides.
Fertilizers are
For buying.
okay. So fertilizers and pesticides must be made available to the farmers.
The sector need to be made competitive, otherwise they won't try to get more yield from that. They will rely on government's policies. They will do whatever they can get through subsidies. So the sector need to be more competitive, right?
Did anyone get that point? Can you please repeat it? Actually, we are unable to hear that.
The sector need to be more competitive, right?
Competitive. Okay, competitive,
Equal.
yes. Competitive system we need to build. And you are saying something?
Otherwise, they will rely on.
Otherwise,
They will rely on the subsidies and the other things that given by the government. They will
okay,
not
okay.
try to produce.
Okay, I got. You said electrification of what? Electrification of pumps. No, I did not get your point properly. So in the interior, India is not electrified fully. That's what. Okay.
So provide or implement eco-friendly agricultural practices.
Okay, eco-friendly agricultural practices are sustainable agricultural practices are zero budget natural farming or organic farming. These are all comes under the same definition.
Sir, implementing a food processing unit for excess or surplus production for
Yeah,
agricultural production.
food processing industry already mentioned. Yeah, next.
Most of the agriculture products are more perishable and make more storage facilities.
Okay, need storage facilities.
Sir,
Yeah.
we can use the procurement can be more efficient and it can be graded, then it can be extended to export market also. Now it's only collected and distributed in public distribution systems. And
So
we
the
can-
procurement must lead to the export so that the export can given much income to the farmers. That is your point, correct? Okay. So now you all mentioned some of the different points through which we can really improve the agricultural system. But in the all points, whatever you have said, it cannot be done only by the government. Government alone cannot do this. Some of the things can be done by the government through its legislations. Some of the things can be done by the government through its welfare programs. Some of the things can be done by the government through its different programs. Some of the things can done only by the collectivization of the society. And some of the things can be done at the national level. Some of the things can be done at the state level. So whatever the points that you have raised, simply you cannot say that government should do all these things. Government cannot do everything. Government has its own limited role in our society. I cannot say in our present constitution, but in the society itself, government is having a limited role. So the present government wanted to provide some sort of these solutions through these legislations. The government has tried to some extent to solve the problems of agricultural system through these legislations, and it cannot bring legislation for every solution that you have mentioned. See, take the case of insurance. There should not be any insurance law. It's not possible. Take the case of, someone said electrification. You cannot bring a law. Tomorrow I can bring a law. So there should not be any house in this country without electrification. But can it really be implementable? If you bring a law, that has to be implemented. But tomorrow, if I'll make an act in the parliament that there should not be any house without electricity, just okay, you have passed it, everyone supported. But what about implementation? It must have resources. It must have a mechanism. So the thing you need to understand is everything cannot be done through the legislation. Some of the things need legislation. Some of the things needs program. Some of the things need some sort of societal support. But here are these three legislations brought by the union government to solve some of the problems to the existing agricultural system. Now I'll tell you some of the problems and how these legislations offer some of the solution to that. Though the present government has repealed these farm laws, I think most of the students are aware the reason for that repeal. What are the reasons for the repeal? So farmers are protesting. Farmers are protesting, and politically it may not be advantage to that states. That is the reason why they have repealed it. But farmers are protesting. Farmers are protesting. That is the main reason we need to consider. Why farmers are protesting? Why farmers are protesting? Tell me. Why farmers are protesting? Prime Minister said, I am failed in make understanding those laws to the people. That's what his statement. But why farmers are protesting? What they are thinking about these laws?
Sir, they think that they want legalization in MSP value.
So they want a legal assurance for MSP. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Still they are protesting because they want this MSP must be legalized. That means there must be a legislation for the MSP. That is why still they are protesting. But what were the concerns of the farmer towards these legislations? So private people will enter into the system, so they lose their bargaining power, and ultimately they have used the term called Modi is corporatizing the agriculture system. That is what they used. Next, is there any other concern? Is there any other concern? They may remove the existing mandi system. That is also one of their concern. They may remove their existing mandi system. So their mandi system will go, their MSP will go. Ultimately, the farmers have to literally depending on these private people, and that too, they are not chota mota private players. They are the big corporates are going to enter into this. So farmers don't have any bargaining power to bargain with that corporates. Ultimately, the farmers has to depending on the mercy of those corporates. So these are the things said by farmers. See, you have to be very clear while you are going through these sort of issues. The legislation is very clear, but the analysis is different. The legislation is clear, but that analysis is different. So you as an aspirant of UPSC need to analyze it rationally. Don't think like the farmers are protesting or all the opposition parties are protesting. So if I take a different view, then it may be wrong. Or otherwise you think that I have to support the government of the day because tomorrow I'm going to be the part of government, so I have to support the argument of government. It need not be. But the facts, the law is clear, but the analysis of law is different. So while you are supporting any argument, because generally you will get these type of questions in UPSC, they'll ask for analysis, they'll ask for critical analysis, they'll ask for comment, they'll ask for do you agree. So whether you are agreeing or whether you are commenting or whether you are giving any sort of your explanation, it must be substantiated with proper explanation. And when it comes to the legislations, now I'll tell you how you need to understand and what is the problem. See, today they may repeal, tomorrow they may bring it again. But the problem is agricultural system is facing some problems. Don't think that only Narendra Modi can solve all these problems. Tomorrow in the year 2024, another government may come. Again in the year 2029, another government may come. But the problem still there. So we need to give a rational solution for the problem. So we are not concerning whether the present government has repealed it or not, they have amended or they have brought it. But we are only concerned with the problem and we wanted to give some sort of solution to that problem. So that point you always must keep it in mind. Forget about what happened. And Narendra Modi government has brought and they have repealed. That is why it has become a current affair. That is why we are studying. But even if you don't study this, the problem still exists. Okay. So now in the present day agricultural system, as some of the students mentioned about MSP and some of the students mentioned about the marketing system. And when it comes to the insurance, I think I have explained in detail in the class what were the latest program that we have brought and what were the problems of that scheme. What is that scheme? Insurance scheme, Pradhana Mantri Fasal Bhima Yojana, and every state government is not implementing that Fasal Bhima Yojana because they have their own problems. And apart from that, Fasal Bima Yojana, weather-based crop insurance scheme, this is also one of the scheme that is happening. But anyhow, the agricultural insurance can only solve the farmers from this vagaries of environment. And we have been seeing in the last 1.5 months or 2 months how the rains are affecting the farmers. And with the whatever the latest cyclone, it has affected the entire coastal Andhra and Tamil Nadu and even some of the parts of Karnataka. So government cannot give compensation every time. Perhaps it's not possible. Perhaps it's not possible for the government to go for that compensation. So we need to make the farmer self-sufficient and self-reliant. So how can we reduce the farmers' dependence on government? That one of the things we can go for is the insurance. And the insurance sector itself is facing a lot of problems in this country. And till now, we have allowed only 49% of FDI into insurance sector, but now we have increased up to 74%. But this is a different topic. I don't want to enter into this, but this is also one of the important thing I'll discuss as a part of current affairs in the upcoming days. But the existing insurance system itself is not sufficient enough to cater the needs of the Indian people, whether it is the farmers or some other. There is a problem, existing systematic problem. We have tried to correct to some extent, but once we have corrected it, the reach of this insurance sector must be reached to the nook and corner of the country. But when it comes to this particular legislations, the farmer has harvested his own crop. Now, what is the price of that crop? Price. How you will decide the price of a particular food crop? See, generally when I say price, you say MSP. When I say price, you will say MSP. But to how many crops government announce MSP? But how many crops are growing in this country?
23.
Sorry?
23.
22. Okay, that third, that removed, 22. But anyhow, how many crops that we are growing in this country? Thousands and thousands. We don't know the exact number. For these 22 crops, if the government announces MSP, but for remaining crops, who has to announce MSP? If you think that MSP can save the farmers, if you think that MSP can only solve the problems of agricultural system, who will announce MSP to all these things? Don't know. So that means your problem, whatever the solution that you are offering as an MSP, I think may not be the correct solution. Otherwise, you announce MSP to everybody, but we don't want to. Why we are announcing the MSP? Why we are announcing the MSP? At least for 22 crops, why we are announcing? Why we are announcing?
For supporting farmers.
For supporting the farmers. In what way you will support the farmers? By assuring the minimum price. Okay, I have given an assurance of 2,240 rupees per quintal. This is what you have given assurance. If you give assurance, will it okay? While you are assuring this price, what was your promise? At any cost, I am going to purchase your produce. With that assurance only, we are announcing this price. It is not something like I am announcing 2,240 rupees for quinta paddy. Wherever you go in India and you can sell your paddy at 2,240. Is that the way the government announced? No. Government cannot dictate the price, at least in the present day. It has dictated in prior to 1990 season or 1990, whatever the reforms we have brought. So when government is announcing this MSP or a minimum support price, it has assured that at any cost I am going to purchase from you. At any cost I am going to purchase from you. At this minimum of this rate, that means minimum I will give 2,240. And if the market condition permits, I can give up to 2,500 or 3,000. With this assurance, government is giving MSP. And this MSP, how MSP is announced and what are the factors that you will study in your economy, don't worry about that. I think those who have completed, they can understand. Now tell me, you are announcing an MSP. Is there any legislation to that MSP? No, there is no legislative backing. Commission for Agricultural Cost and Price will give a recommendation to the government, and Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. It's simply nothing but cabinet. So ultimately the cabinet announces this. Cabinet announces this. Once the cabinet announces this MSP, that means at the prior to sowing season, once the food crop is harvested, then Food Corporation of India on behalf of Government of India will start procuring. Now the farmers are demanding that this MSP must have a legislative backing. That means what? You need to bring a new legislation in the parliament to say that government must announce MSP every year or every season, and at that price only farmer has a right to sell his produce. That is what they are expecting. We need to do that legislation. See, one basic thing you need to understand, why government is announcing MSP? Because it is a procurer. It is a procurer. It is also a procurer. That is the reason why it is announcing an MSP. And anyhow, it is announcing and it is procuring to some extent. Now, if you make it as a part of legislation, what will happen is it binds on the government. It binds on the government. Now, government has to give MSP and government has to procure. Okay, you have made a legislation. Now the government announces MSP. Anyhow, government is announcing MSP and government is procuring to some extent. But if you made a legislation, what will happen is government has to procure all the food grains in this country at that MSP. Because every farmer will get a right to sell his produce at MSP. Did you get the point? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? If you don't understand, again ask me. Because if you don't understand these concepts, it is very difficult to understand what is happening in this country. So if you make a legislation to guarantee that MSP, then definitely government has to give MSP. That means that government has to procure all the food grains in this country. Now tell me, what is the present procurement level of government? Did anyone have any raw figure about how much amount of food grains that the government is procuring today? How much percentage? 30%. Government is procuring almost 30% of food grains in this country. And I am only talking about food grains. These food grains include rice, wheat, and coarse grains or coarse cereals, we will call it as. Only these three government is procuring. Remaining things government is not procuring. And why government is procuring only these three things? Because it has to supply to the people through National Food Security Act. That means whatever the PDS, what you call in Kerala, public ration shops. Ration shops. So through ration shops, it has to distribute it to the people. That is the reason why it is procuring. And of the total 30%, almost 99% is only rice and wheat. Of the 30% the government is procuring, in that 99% is only rice and wheat. And the remaining 1% is the core cereals and others. Now I am asking a question. You have announced the MSP to 22 crops, and cotton is something different. Cotton Corporation of India will do its procurement. That's a different thing. But anyhow, in the food grains, that includes pulses and other things. You are announcing the MSP for 22 crops. Hardly you are procuring only 3 different. And in that 3, you are only procuring this 2 as 99% and remaining thing only 1%. The reason you are saying the farmers in this country, most of the farmers are growing rice and wheat. That is the reason why I am collecting 99% only rice and wheat. Then what is the sanctity to this MSP? When you don't want to procure, you are procuring only rice and wheat, but you are announcing MSP for 22 other crops. And the farmers are having some sort of expectation from the government that definitely he is going to procure my produce at the end of the season at a minimum rate of some 3,000 or 4,000. and you are not procuring. I am not insisting on the government that you must procure, but I am saying to the government that you must reveal what is happening inside the system. If you take the case of oil seeds, edible oil, did the government procure? Did the government procure and process it and sell the oil, cooking oil to every house? Is it possible? It's not possible. So the thing is, you are announcing MSP for some of the crops, and you are saying that I am going to procure at any cost at a minimum of this price, and you yourself confined to only two grades, two crops, rice and wheat. And why you are doing for only rice and wheat? Because you need to distribute it to the people. That is the reason why you are doing, not that you want to save the farmers. Don't say that I am saving the farmers by procuring from the farmers. No, you have your own obligation, and tomorrow this obligation may go. Tomorrow this obligation may go, because in the year 2013 we have brought a law called National Food Security Act, and under this act 75% of the population in the rural area and 50% in urban area, in total 66% of the country's population must be given subsidized food grains. That is the legislation says. That is the reason why you are procuring from the farmers. But tomorrow this law may go. You may confine it to 30, because I don't expect that Indian will always depending on the government for food grains. Tomorrow, maybe if the income levels goes up, then it may come down. Then what government should do? If that obligation goes, then government say that, okay, anyway, I'm not distributing the food grains to the people, so I don't procure it from the farmers. Then where the farmer has to sell? Where they have to sell? So it's very easy to say that they have to sell in the open market, but have you created any system to that? Have you allowing a competitive system into that market? So the thing you need to understand, government is procuring. For what purpose government is procuring? You need to first understand that. Don't say that government has to procure, government has to announce MSP. Governments are announcing the MSP. Governments will, in the coming days also, they will announce the MSPs. There is no problem in announcing the MSP. When you don't procure, then there is no reason to announce the MSP in my point of view. But for political gains, they can announce the MSP, and they can even increase it by 100%, 200%, and 300%. Tomorrow you can announce that I am going to give 5,000 rupees for a quinta of paddy. This is my MSP. But when you don't procure at that rate, or when you procure only a certain amount of food grain, what is the use of announcing that MSP? And take the case of vegetable farmers. Who are announcing the MSP to them? No one is announcing. So the point is, just remove this conception of MSP from your mind. There is another reason. Okay, if MSP is announced, any private player in this country, if at all he want to purchase, he has to purchase at MSP. Okay, I said 30% is procured by the government of India and remaining 70% is left. I'm only talking about rice and wheat and coarse grains. See, the 70% now farmers will go to a trader, a local trader. And now you have shown a legislation made by the parliament that I have a right in this country to sell my produce at MSP. So please give that 3,000 rupees to me. Then immediately the trader say, I don't want to be in this business, so I don't procure at all. Because he is getting lost at that price. You don't want to. Anyway, he don't procure. When a private trader don't want to procure at your assured price, when government itself is not capable of handling the total amount of production, who has to purchase or who has to procure that food grains in this country? Did you get the point? Is it clear? Are you understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the problem is you are announcing an MSP, you are not procuring. On the other hand, we wanted a legislation that will have some sort of binding impact on the trader. If tomorrow everyone moves out of this business and they don't want to procure, will you bring a law that this person has to procure the food grains? Is it possible? No. Then who has to procure? And you say ultimately the burden lies with the government. Government has to procure. Will the government have that capacity to procure? No, I'll tell you. because I have given some these type of statistics to some of the students. What is the agricultural production in India? 14% of GDP. What is the level of GDP? Rough 200 lakh crore. 14% of 200 lakh crore. A rough estimate. This is the level of agricultural production that is happening in our country. This is the level of agricultural production happening in our country. It includes cereals, it includes pulses, rice, wheat, everything. Okay, flowers, vegetables, everything. 28. I'm just removing for convenience 20 lakh worth of goods, 20 lakh worth of agricultural production has traded in the open market without support of MSP and all. Remaining 8 lakh is left. If the pressure builds on government of India to procure the worth of agricultural commodities of 8 lakh crore, can really government of India do that? No. Can government of India spend 8 lakh crore on agricultural procurement? Is it really possible? What is the budget? 34 lakh crore this year budget. And in that 1/4 almost you are spending it on only agricultural procurement. Forget about agricultural infrastructure. Forget about irrigation. Forget about electrification. Forget about micro irrigation, high variety yields, everything. Just to procure, government has to spend 8 lakh crore. Okay, government has spent 8 lakh crore. Okay, don't worry. But what it has to do with these commodities? What government has to do with this commodity? Okay, it has procured. Anyhow, it's spent because they are more concerned about the farmer. Now, what they need to do with these worth of commodities? Did really a government an efficient business manager? Can really government go for processing? Can really government go for exports? Governments cannot do exports. Please remember this point. Governments cannot do exports. Why? The reason is here we are procuring through a process of MSP. That means we are subsidizing the farmers. That means actually we don't know the market rate, but irrespective of market rate, we are giving extra amount to the farmers. And in that way we are procuring. If we procure in that process, you cannot export at the world level because WTO rules don't permit to do that. WTO rules don't permit to do that. And those students who haven't completed this WTO topic, don't worry. Actually, this WTO is an agency at the international level which will promote an equitable trade at the world level. So you are not procuring at market price. In the market, it may be 1500 or 1700, but you are procuring at 2300 or 2400. That means extra benefit you are giving to the farmer. When you are giving extra benefit to the farmer, most of the farmers will come to you to sell. And you using that particular food crops and you are trying to sell it in the open market. World countries don't agree to that. If it really procured at the market price by the private individuals, then we will allow. But if it is by the governments, we don't allow. Then what government has to do with this? Government can't do anything. And already some people are aware that the Food Corporation of India's godowns are now already completely filled. That is the reason why the government also extended the benefit of Pradhana Mantri Anna Yojana scheme up to March. Not that Narendra Modi is so benevolent towards the poor people of this country. He is benevolent to some extent. But why he is go on extending the scheme? Because we are having some lakhs and lakhs of tons of food grains that are idle in the warehouses of Food Corporation of India. We wanted to get rid of all those things. We want to get rid of all those things. And I'll tell you a recent example. And are you aware, like recently Telangana Chief Minister has staged a dharna against the union government? Have you studied in the newspapers? You might not aware. There was a problem in Telangana. I'll tell you. In the Rabi season, I think Rabi season starts from November or December, it runs up to March. In the Rabi season, the Telangana farmers grows paddy. But because of high temperature, because it's a summer season, because of high temperature, the food grain get damaged. If you boil that paddy itself, not rice, if you boil that paddy itself, we'll call it as para-boiled rice. Whatever the rice we are having regularly is parboiled rice. The size will become so thick. Now the Telangana government wanted to procure the food grains of Rabi by the government of India, but government of India saying there is already huge amount of this parboiled rice and Kerala, Tamil Nadu people don't want to consume it. Then what government has to do? So the thing, if you understand, we are not understanding the demand and supply in the market, first point. We are not understanding whether the government is an efficient business manager or not. We are not understanding. Simply we want one thing, we will harvest it or we will cultivate it and you are here to procure it. And ultimately, if you waste all these food grains, then the better solution that can offer, instead of wasting all this amount of money, if you just credit some amount of money into the accounts of the farmer, then it will be much more efficient. Because farmers are doing, working, everything, procuring, and ultimately you are wasting all these food grains. What is the use in that? So the point you need to understand is, when it comes to the procurement and when it comes to the price, the entire discussion is revolving around one point called government. Government has to procure, government has to procure, government has to procure, government has to announce MSP. Whatever the government will do, but we don't want, we want government has to procure. But there is a serious thing to the farmers also, because farmers need an assured market. Farmer don't need whether it is by the government or whether it is by the somebody. They always wanted a good price. But we are projecting in a different way. If the government procures, they will give better price. If the private people procures, they may not give better price. Government will give better price. But to what extent government can procure? Government definitely gives better price. But to what extent government can procure? Government cannot procure the food grain of each and every farmer. Perhaps it's not possible. So the entire discussion that is revolving around this government need to be tackled first. Once you understand that government cannot do everything, now the question comes, what next? If not government, then who? If not government, then who? That's where this particular legislation addresses. First legislation. What that legislation says is, in the normal system, we call mandi system. APMC we call it as Agricultural Produce Marketing Committees. There was a modified APMC in which year? 2003. Modified APMC. This was a model law. Model law means in our constitutional setup, union cannot do everything and state cannot do everything. There are some responsibilities which are assigned to the union government. There are some responsibilities which are assigned to the state government. Suppose if your school, village level school is not working properly, you cannot blame the Narendra Modi for that. If government of India is not dealing properly with the China, you cannot blame your Pinarayi Vijayan. Because there are some responsibilities assigned to the union government, there are some responsibilities assigned to the state government. In the constitution itself, we will call it as Schedule 7 of the Constitution. In the Schedule 7 of the Constitution, we have three lists called state list, union list, and concurrent list. Anyway, those who have completed, they can understand. So under that particular division, agriculture is in the state list. At that point of time, union government thought that we cannot make a legislation on these items. So we will frame a model law. That means this law is not going to have any effect, but we will give just a framework to the state government so that the respective state governments will bring their own laws. Accordingly, some of the states have brought and some of the states have not implemented. I'll come to that law. But this government wanted to implement this law at a national level. Because when you have given these responsibilities to the state level, some of the states are implementing, some of the states are not implementing. And if we go like this, we cannot fully implement the reforms in this country. So we wanted a national law. Then it contradicts my earlier argument that when union government is not permitted under the constitution, how come this government has brought these laws? They have used some loophole in the constitution. They have considered it as an interstate agricultural trade and commerce. Under that item, they have brought, because that comes under the concurrent list, where union and state can have the concurrent powers or the simultaneous powers. But they have used some provisions in the constitution. Whether that provision is valid or not, that is up to the Supreme Court. It will decide. But anyhow, that laws are removed. But union government wanted a national level legislation to implement these reforms. Hitherto, they are implemented some of the state level. Don't think that these are the new reforms. Don't think that these are not there in the public domain. We have been discussing these reforms for last 15 years, and the first step was with the 2003 model APMC, and some of the states already implemented it. What are those laws? What are those APMC reforms? In a simple reason, I don't want to getting into the details. The simple is earlier, a state is divided into some 2 to 3 geographical zones. A farmer hailing from this zone is not supposed to sell his produce outside his geographical mandi. Market. Mandi is nothing but market. He has to only sell his produce in this market only. Suppose Trivandrum, Kollam, tell me another district name near to Trivandrum. Should not supposed to sell his produce outside these 3 districts. Even if the price is good, even if they are amounting good price, then what these people are giving. So that was the restriction earlier. Then the point is, who will procure the food grains in this region? Now I said Trivandrum, Kollam and Alapura. Who has to procure? There are some licensed dealers. Not everyone. If you want to start an agricultural business, you can't start. You have to take a license from the government, and you are very well aware, if the license system comes, definitely government will provide the license to only those party workers, whatever may be the party, whether it is Communist, Congress, BJP, or so on so. That was the political system in this country, unfortunately. And few people are only trying to procure the food grains in this locality. And if as a third person, you have taken some license at any cost, but they don't allow you to be in this business because it is a completely a cartelized system. Cartelized system. So that means farmer has to sell his food grain at the rate decided by these cartelized people, or otherwise they have to store that food grain at his home. That is the problem in the existing system. That is a problem in the existing system. So this APMC has removed all these borders. All these borders. You can sell anywhere in the state, not in the state. You can sell even in the outside state also. That means wherever a farmer find a better price, then he can go and he can sell. And the first legislation what we have talked about has tell the same thing. That is what exactly the first thing. The mandi system will be there, but apart from mandi system, any person can involve in the trading activity, and moreover, these geographical restrictions will be completely removed. Anyone can come, no license system. If you want to start a business or you want to start a business, you can come and you can procure. No license system. But the point is, some people are arguing, did really the farmer of Trivandrum having a capacity to go to the Andhra Pradesh directly to sell his meager produce? No, he can't go. But you must understand, the trader from Andhra Pradesh can directly come to Trivandrum, because you are not the only customer to that trader. So simply you can argue that a farmer cannot go to Delhi, but Delhi dealer can directly come to Trivandrum because he is a businessman. That is what you need to understand. That is what we have done in the first legislation. Simply. Then what is the apprehension of these farmers? If that is the solution, then why these farmers are so apprehended about all this system? See, mostly it happened in the state of Punjab and Haryana. Punjab and Haryana. What is the present system in Punjab and Haryana is almost 90% of the food grain is procured in the state of Punjab and Haryana. In the total production, 90% of the production is procured by the government of India. That means on overall, in India, government is procuring most of the food grains from the state of Punjab. Now they are thinking, if the government comes with these bills, then government will retreat and private people enter. If private people enter, definitely they don't give this much price. Our mandi system will go. But government is assuring mandi system will be there. We will procure through FCI to some extent because we have some requirement. We need to distribute the food grains to the people. We can't go to the private people. No. Anyway, we'll continue. But don't worry. Private people will also come. No. If you bring this laws, you will retreat and private people will come. Then they may exploit. I can understand their problem because they are growing, they are farmers and they are doing a lot of hardship and finally they have cultivated it. But one serious question I want to put for the farmers of Punjab and Haryana. In the 1963, we have started Green Revolution. I think everyone aware about that. From Green Revolution onwards, even today, you are growing only paddy and wheat. Why you are only growing paddy and wheat? Don't you know of growing techniques of other food grains? There are some farmers who are earning lakhs and lakhs of rupees by diversifying their crops. But why these farmers are not diversifying? Are they poor farmers? Are they new to the agriculture system? Does the geography is not supporting for other food grains? The only thing is that they are systematically sidewarded towards these wheat and paddy. They are procuring, they are harvesting, you are procuring. They are harvesting, you are procuring. They are harvesting, you are procuring. At one point of time in the 1960s and 70s, when India is facing a serious food grain crisis, Punjab has saved the entire country. No doubts in that. That doesn't mean that farmers have to confine only to the rice and wheat. Today, every farmer is growing because they are diversifying. They are cultivating different crops that is giving a lot of good value. But why you are only allowing the Punjab farmers to rice and wheat? That is a serious problem we need to understand first. That too, is there any demand for rice and wheat, at least in this country? No. Because we have produced huge amount of rice and wheat. Now it is sufficient to everyone in this country. And huge amount of stocks are lying idle in the godowns of Food Corporation of India. That is what you need to understand. So we don't want to diversify it. If we diversify, what is the immediate requirement? You need a market. If rice and wheat, government is there to procure. Suppose if you go for any flower, if you go for any different vegetable, there must be a market. Can a government offer MSP to that avocado, and can government procure avocado, and can government supply avocado to people? It's not possible. Avocado is a fruit. It cannot. Then what it has to do? It has to promote the private people, where they can have the relation with the other countries, where they can have a relation with the entire world. If possible, they can add value by processing it. But we don't want to do that. Because if we bring private people, maybe these people may get fear. And on that fear, they go on cultivating rice and wheat and rice and wheat and rice and wheat. That is what we need to understand. First of all, we need to get rid of these people from rice and wheat. Because we wanted the farmers of Punjab and Haryana or other farmers to grow. But it has to be done systematically. So the crop diversification, whatever you have mentioned, is a correct point. But it has to be supported with proper market. If you don't have proper market, even if you diversify, there is no use. There is no use. Every farmer in a particular village is growing rice and wheat. But you as a farmer, you are so different and you have cultivated a different crop. If your own village people are so interested to purchase that commodity, then it's fine. But suppose your village people are not interested in whatever the crop that you have grown, then you have to sell somewhere. Will you go on roaming around the country to sell your produce? It's not possible. So whatever the diversification, whatever we are proposing, the diversification has to be supported with only proper market conditions. If I have an assured market, I can grow anything. If I have an assured market, I can grow anything. But I need a proper market. That market cannot be provided by the government. It has to be done by only private people. That means individuals like you and me. We are interested in business. We will sell it to some other state or we will sell it to the international level. So that is what you need to understand. Diversification is the necessity of the day. For that you need a market. If you need that market, you need to allow the private people. If private people are to be there, then these legislative old systems has to go. Then only you can save the farmers. Otherwise, it's not possible. I'll tell you one more thing. Probably, I don't know whether I have mentioned it in the class or not, but I'll last conclusive point to this particular topic, because I need to discuss something on the same formulas. See, today, these figures everyone knows. 15% of GDP, almost 45% of the population, depending on. Now tell me, if any country, don't glorify the sacrifices of the farmer. Don't glorify it, because they are underutilizing their potential. Please try to understand. The farmer is producing, he is doing a lot of hard work, but you must understand that they are only contributing less to the economy when you calculating in a monetized term. We need to bring this 45%, at least some 30% out of this sector. You as an employee, you can earn lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and a farmer will do hard work and finally he will cultivate, and you simply praise this farmer. You simply praise this farmer like you are ultimately saving this country and you are feeding this country. But have you ever bothered to increase the income of the farmer? You don't want to. Just you want to offer only sympathy. But I don't want to offer that sympathy to the farmers. I wanted the farmer's income has to be increased. I wanted the farmer to be on your level. That is what your mindset. That is what your thought process should be. Now tell me, if this 45% has to move to the other sectors, what are the other sectors? Secondary sector and tertiary sector, manufacturing and services. And the person who is working in the service sector will earn so much then compared to the manufacturing, and the person who is working in manufacturing will earn more than the person in working in primary sector. And my farmer has to earn to that level. Then what I need to do? I need to bring these people to the secondary level, from secondary level to the tertiary level. Then you say like, sir, if everyone goes to secondary and tertiary level, then what will be about primary level? Then who has to feed this country? If the people are shifting from secondary to primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, ultimately there will be a demand for primary again. If there is a demand, their incomes will increase. Understanding? Okay. So, but how will go from primary to secondary? That is the main issue. They need an education. They need a proper health. They need a skill development. Okay, now government is offering education, health, and everything. Then why people are not moving from primary to sector, primary to secondary? It's a so slow process. Why? The reason I'll tell you. See, the government is offering an education through government schools, government hospitals, and I think these government skill development centers, I don't think so like they are working. But when it comes to the government school and government hospital, it's better to say in Kerala, but when you go to the other states, it's not so perfect. If a child is not given proper education, proper health facilities, proper skill development, how can the child will transform from primary level to secondary level? That's the main first question. Second point I'll tell you. Even if the government is giving even if the government is giving education, health facilities and skill development, if that family is not supported with the proper income, we cannot expect the candidate or the student to be in the education process for 15 or 20 years or so. It's not possible because family pressure. Family asks you to not to study because you have to supplement to the family's income. You are given education, you are given health, you are given skill development, but your family's condition is so pathetic. You cannot be in education for at least 15 years. You have to be. If at all you have to be in the education for at least 15 to 20 years, then your family should also have a proper income. But where is your family? Your family is in agriculture. Your family is in agriculture. And if I able to increase the income of the agricultural farmer sustainably for a period of 15 to 20 years, definitely I can expect a family member can transform from primary to secondary. Understanding? So that is how society moves from one level to another level. Simply if you start a program or if you start a scheme, society won't move. Society is not so dynamic as what we are thinking. Society is so static. It needs a lot of push. It is influenced by various parameters. So everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. And I am only giving an example of this market reforms. Apart from that, there are other reforms has to do. But we need to understand this first. And that reform, unfortunately, we have repealed it. And we wanted government has to do. And you know all the things, if the government enters, what are the problems that you are going to encounter? You can't diversify. You can't diversify. You cannot improve your incomes. That's the problem. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Did this concept I explained in the class, this last concept, moving society from primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, those who have completed? Yes? Okay. But anyhow, and there are two other legislation, just I'll give a brief idea. Second one, contract farming. See, simply whatever the entire name that I've given, that is simply contract farming. So contract farming means today what is the price of tomato? 120. And just wait, in the month of December, it will again come back to 30 or 40. 30 or 40. If it really become 120, if it is 120, it really benefits the farmer. And in my state also it is 120. Where we produce more and more, also it is 120. Because I have given the reason already. Because if there is a free economy, market prices will be stabilized. Whether you grow here or somewhere. That free economy will always makes the prices equal. Because the trader who is in Telangana, he don't want to sell his produce at 30 or 40 rupees in Telangana. He will certainly bring it to Kerala and he will make a profit on that. But anyhow, the prices will be at one point of time it is 30, at another point of time it is 120. If it is 120, it is okay, it will help the farmers. But you don't believe there are some seasons in which there is a famous place called in Andhra Pradesh, Madanapalle, where even you will get tomatoes at 1 rupee per kg. 1 rupee per kg, because that is the hub of tomatoes. Even 1 rupee. And even if you sell this at 1 rupee, you don't even compensate your traveling charges, just you will pour tomatoes on the road. Because you don't want to bear that even travel charges also. That's the problem. If it is 120, it's fine. But if it is fun, who has to save the farmers? Tell me. Who has to? Till now we have discussed about rice, wheat and everything. It's not about rice and wheat. It's about vegetables. It's about vegetables. Who has to save this farmer? Will government has to come up with another MSP immediately? What will the government do with the tomatoes? Will it distribute to everyone? It's a perishable commodity. You can't store it. Then what you have to do? That is the reason why. That is the reason why we have brought a system of contract farming, in which a contractor will be there and you will sign a contract with this. You will sign a contract with the farmer. He will give an assured price, whether it is 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. It is up to you and the farmer and the contractor. Farmer and contractor. Suppose if the price become 120, definitely it is a loss to the farmer. But if it becomes 1, it's highly benefit to the farmer. Then you may ask, what this contractor will do with all these crops? He may be a processor. He may be an exporter. He may add value to that product. He may store it. He may do anything. But he is certainly not like government, where he will allow to lie the food grains in an idle format in the godowns. He don't do that. He will add value because he has a business somewhere else. So that is the reason why we need to have this system. No, contractor will exploit the farmer. Then who exploited the farmer here? Who exploited the farmer? Who exploited here? No one exploited. At least we are offering some amount of rate. That is what you need to understand. Contract farming will help the farmers because the prices are completely dynamic. They may change from day to day. That is the reason why we need to have a contract farming. But what we said, Ambanis and Adanis will come into this and they will sign an agreement at a least price with all the farmers. What Ambani will do with all these tomatoes? So that means whenever we are understanding the problem, actually we are not so concerned about exactly what is happening in the system. We are simply followed with whatever the debates or arguments that goes in the economy or in the country. So the point you need to understand is, certainly there must be a proper price to the farmer. There must be a fixed price. At least if I give a fixed assurance that you are going to get 30 or 40 rupees per kg tomato, and I can harvest you, let it be 300 kgs or 500 kgs of tomato. I have an assured price. I can do my work comfortably with a confidence. Otherwise, I don't know what is going to happen in future. I'll do work for 3 months, but I don't know what is going to happen on the 4th month. Is that better or is this better? You cannot simply cite that, okay, it may become 120, but will you give that assurance that 120 I will pay and I will purchase from you as a consumer? We can't give that assurance. It's difficult. Only the people who involve in this can give that assurance. That is what about contract farming system. It was there in some of the states, but unfortunately, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. And there is another thing, Essential Commodities Act, not directly related to this, but to some extent it is related to agricultural system, but I don't want to explain that topic at this point of time. We will have a separate discussion on that in the last year, last year 2021 in 2020's economic survey, it has given clear explanation how Essential Commodities Act is actually not working towards the advantage of the farmers. But once you understand the agricultural system, once you understand how we can improve the society, certainly you have to give a rational, logical solutions. Simply you cannot say that the government has been procuring for last 60 years, so it has to procure, or otherwise Punjab and Haryana farmers fed this country for last 60 years, so they have to be taken care. But those arguments does not work once you understand the problem completely. Is it fine? Is it fine? If you have any doubts on this, you can seek a clarification.
So,
Yeah.
so you said about contract farming. If a farmer cannot fulfill his liability, will he face a legal action? Because he's in a contract with the contractor.
That's all. Actually, unfortunately, that law has passed, but rules and regulations, we haven't framed it actually. Once we frame the rules and regulations, certainly we can say if the farmer or the contractor, if they don't fulfill the liability, what compensation or what type of penalty they need to pay, that could have been written. We don't know exactly, but the rules and regulations not framed. But certainly some sort of conditions will be there. Either it is for the farmers or for the contractors. Because simply you cannot cancel the contract in the middle.
So suppose if a calamity happens, we cannot fulfill his liabilities.
No. The calamity is something is different, because when this contract is happening, I think they will make sure that insurance is compulsory. Once you make insurance is compulsory, then he may not fulfill the liability, and he will get insurance amount, and maybe from that amount he may pay something to the contractor, but we don't know how they will exactly frame that, but probably the insurance will come into the picture if there is any calamity.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So any doubts, any specific doubts? Is it clear? How many of you are still not clear about this topic? Just raise your hand. No, it's not compulsory that everyone should understand everything in the first class instance. Is it clear for you? Have you understood what exactly agricultural system is about? So if tomorrow someone asks, yeah, they want to say something from online. Okay, so if tomorrow someone asks you what we need to do, don't say that government has to procure, government has to hike the MSP, government has to give the MSP. No, these logics doesn't work. Okay, and while you are writing the answer also, don't think that examiner don't understand all these things, so simply I'll write the bullet points like increasing MSP, announce MSP, implement Swaminathan formula, implement some other formula. No, you don't get good marks. Okay, you have to be very clear, and you have to substantiate with the proper reasons and try to analyze carefully. Okay, shall I move to next topic then? Shall I move to next topic?
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yeah. Don't think that is really this much is necessary for a UPSC aspirant. Don't undermine yourself. Okay, don't undermine yourself. You are going to enter into the premier service, and the politicians don't know anything. They expect lot from you. And if you don't know anything, then you don't contribute anything to the country. Even if you enter into the service, that ultimately you will become a burden to this country. Like how many other public employees are really becoming a burden to the country. Likewise, you will become another burden. You have to contribute something. You always has to inspire from the problems of the country. Don't say that I have lost prelims, so I don't write. I have lost mains, I don't write. No. You have to self-motivate on your own, and that motivation comes from your problems of your country, and in what way I can contribute to this country. That is how you need to motivate. Okay.